Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a handover video on this Orion Gemini. It's a little bit more of an unusual sort of make and model on this one, but you know, it's getting less and less of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start under the bonnet, walk around the whole outside of the vehicle, and then I'll jump inside and show you what we've got inside as well. So first things first, under the bonnet we've got the paint code. So you've got Fiat 249 on here. Now, I know it's based on a Peugeot Boxer, but the Fiat Ducato is exactly the same chassis, and it does give you the Fiat code on here. It's exactly the same colour that's on the cab here. We've then got your engine battery just here, brake fluid, power steering fluid, engine oil and engine oil dipstick. You can also fill the engine oil up from here as well if you want to, just a bit easier to get to. You've got a couple of fuses and relays behind this little box just here. Engine coolant in this reservoir here. More fuses and relays inside this one. Your air filter sits inside this box over here, and your washer fluid goes in this one down here on the bottom right hand side. So really nice and straightforward under the bonnet. Everything's really nice and easy to get to. Front near side we've got the diesel filling point. So if we lift this cap open, we can see that's where the diesel filler is. You can push on the left hand side of this little flap here and it will then release that to give you access. Inside the passenger door, all there is really to show you is that you've got the electric window function on there. There's not really much else to show you whatsoever on that side, to be honest. Right, the next locker we get to is going to be this one down here, which is your LPG or your gas locker. Again, nice and straightforward on how to actually use it, so I'll just run you through how you do that. So you've got a regulator up here at the top. This is what this silver unit up here is. You've got a pigtail hose which has been replaced on the habitation check, so that's 2024 dated, and you've got till 29 to replace that because you get 5 years on those. So you've got the valve on the top of the bottle, so we go anti-clockwise around to the left, turns the bottle on. And I always do a little bit of a tip just to say, when you turn these bottles on, make sure that you turn it all the way on until it stops turning, so that when you come to the vehicle to then turn the gas off, you know that you're going the right way when you come to switching it off. So you can only go one way, which is clockwise around to the right to turn it off. The little valves on the top of the actual regulator, this little yellow thing, you don't have to do anything with that. That's purely just for our testing purposes. So you can leave that how it is, and then just basically just remember to turn the bottle off before you start driving. That's all you need to know, really. But yeah, there you go. You've got these two vents just here. So these are both to do with the fridge. So if you have got the fridge lit up on gas, like I do at the moment, you will feel warm air coming out through this top right hand side of this top vent. The reason for that is that you've got your actual exhaust for the gas flame just there. So the flame's just down here in the burner, comes up through the flue and comes out just there. So you can double check that's definitely working from that little point there. We've got your pull out step. So this is a manual step. So if I literally lift up on the front here, it will then pull its way back in by itself. And it's just a case of doing it. It's really, really easy. Just like that. Now you have got on the door here, you have got this lock that you can use if you want to. So that will come across the door here and allow you to sort of double lock this habitation door, which is always nice. So you've got the full-size Fiamma F45 wind-out awning up there as well, as you can see. At the back of the van, we've got a couple of things. So you've got the bike rack here, obviously. Underneath this big box is the original bike rack. This is a Fiamma Ultra box as well, which are specifically designed to go on top of these bike racks. So additional storage in there if you should need it. You also got your ladder to get yourself up onto the roof, and your reversing camera just there as well. So at the back of the vehicle, just going to show you a couple of things. So this little valve just here behind the rear offside wheel is your drain off point for the wastewater. You've got another one a bit further up just next to the exhaust, which is the freshwater drain off point. but that is basically just your 2 water drains just there on this one off side. Sometimes it can get a little bit confusing where they're on opposite sides and all that sort of stuff, but wastewater drain off at the back, freshwater drain off towards the front. The lockers that we get to at the back just here, of course I've left it unlocked. We've got these 2 here at the very back. These are both to do with your toilet. So if I just unlock these so you can see what's going on inside them. So the top one just here is your flush fluid reservoir. So because the flush fluid in here has got its own tank, its own reservoir, you do have to top that up now and again when it starts to run low. So to open that up, literally key goes in, twist the key whichever way it will go, and then allow it to drop down towards you. That's how you open that one up. And that is your pre-mixed pink fluid that goes inside there as your flush. Now below that, we've got the actual Thetford toilet cassette locker. So again, key goes in, twist it, take the key out, and you'll then be able to push on this little lock here. So when you push these buttons in together at the same time, it allows you to open up that door. Right, so we've then got the actual cassette itself. When I pull on this little lever at the bottom, it will allow us to take the cassette all the way out. Once it's here, you can then take that all the way out and walk it to wherever you need to go. All you need to know from me really in regards to that is that you empty it out from here. You've got a little yellow cap just here to actually empty it out from. When you're emptying it out, you should be holding down this little yellow button at the back. And when you've actually emptied it out and you want to put it back in, use this little thing here, the actual cap itself. You'll find that when you take it out, you'll see it's got measurements on the side of it. If you just fill that to the top with the blue fluid and pour it back into the cassette, swoosh it around a little bit, and then push it all the way back in, that is your flush, the actual toilet cassette ready to use again once it's been pushed back in. Right, you've got 2 bits just here. So I'm just taking the cap off this top one here. This is your boiler vent, by the way. So this one just here, I'm taking the cap off. That is the vent for the boiler. But just to the left of that, we've got your electric hookup point. So if you do have the electric cable, as an option, if you've got one that you can use, it's really handy to have that plugged in. Purely for the fact that when you have that plugged in, your battery charger is going to be switched on immediately and your leisure battery is going to be at maximum power. You'll also have access to using any of your mains powered appliances, plug sockets, all that sort of stuff, which I'll run you through when we get inside. The boiler vent is really important to remember to take that off. So if I try to light the boiler up, if when we get around the outside done and I went in, and if I tried to light the boiler up without taking this cover off, first of all, it probably won't light up, or it won't light up because you can't get any air to go in. But if it did manage to catch some of that gas, it's just going to explode, really. It's just going to pump, it's going to pump that off. So please, just remember to take that off. That's really, really important. But that is the boiler vent just there. This little one just here is your freshwater filling point. So you basically just need to unlock that cap, twist it around to the left whilst pushing in, and then that'll come off in your hand. Opposite to lock it up, so push in and round to the right, and then lock it up. Really, really easy. But that is your freshwater filling point. I don't think there's no more lockers or anything like that on the outside, to be honest. So I will just jump into the cab now and show you what we've got going on in here. So it's a relatively straightforward cab, to be honest. There's not a huge amount to run through. But you've got your park safe reversing camera screen just there. That will come on as soon as you turn the ignition on if you want it on. You can leave it on whilst you're driving if you want to, obviously, but you don't have to do that. You've got your lights and indicators on the left-hand stalk just here. Washers and wipers are on the right. You've got your electric adjusting mirrors from this one just here, and your electric windows from there. You've got the 5-speed manual gearbox, reverses over to the top left-hand side. You do have to lift up on this little thing here in order to reach reverse. Just down here, we've got the steering column adjustments and your bonnet release handle just there as well. You've got the original factory-fitted Peugeot head unit and all of your heater controls and hazard warning lights from there. But it's all, to be honest, as soon as you sit in this thing, you're going to realise where it's all very easy to get to and straightforward. Only thing I would say from a sort of, I don't know, safety point of view is down here you've got the handbrake on the right hand side, which might not seem unusual, but I promise you that 9 out of 10 people that get into these things for test drives and that will go for the handbrake on the left hand side, because that's the normal place for it to be in a car. But because it's a van, it's down here on the right hand side, so please just be careful of that when you're jumping out of the vehicle. I can't tell you how many times I've caught myself on that, and it does really, really hurt. So just be careful of that. Other than that, I think that's about it really. So what I will do is just spin around, because obviously in this particular layout you've got the option here. Obviously there's no bulkhead here, and you know that's all been cut out as part of the conversion, so you can just literally use this area at the front to get through to the cab. You have got the over cab bed, so to release that you undo these little clips either side, and then you can fold this down and make it into a full-size double bed. But when you're not using that, it's best to keep it locked up like so you can't, you know, it won't move around when you're driving. So when you first walk into the van from the habitation door, you don't really get a huge amount to see or do. You haven't got many switches and buttons and all that sort of stuff. The majority of the switches and buttons are over here above this forward-facing seat. So what I'll do is I'll start off by running you through this sort of control panel here, and it's very, very straightforward. The entire thing is really easily laid out, but I will just run you through how to use it. So when you come into the van to use it for the first time, as in, you know, if you've had it locked up for a couple of days or whatever, when you come into the van to start everything up, the first thing you need to do is turn one of the batteries on. So this just here is basically your battery selector. So for example, let's just say we've come into the van, we want to turn the lights on, we want to, you know, have ignition, you want to have 12-volt power going to things. You need to switch this little rocker switch up to HAB. All right, if we go down to vehicle, what's going to happen is all of the power that we draw in the back end of this vehicle now is going to be drawn from the vehicle battery or the engine battery. So it's really important that you use HAB on here when you're using 12-volt power, for obvious reasons. If you try and use the vehicle battery, it's going to end up draining the engine battery out, and you won't be able to start the van up. So make sure that you are using the HAB battery option. When you're done with the 12-volt power, switch it back to the middle to the off position, and that'll then turn off any 12-volt power to the back end of the vehicle. The 4 switches either side of this are all to do with your lights. So literally, if you want to turn on all of the lights, if you want to have power going to all of the lights, just turn all of these switches on, and you'll then be able to go around and use the lights as and when you want to. So they'll all have their own individual switches on them, but having those 4 switches on there will allow you to use all of the lights. So the top row, at the very top here, we've got pump on, which will come on when we use the pump, and the pump's actually running. Waste full, which is just going to tell you if your waste tank gets full up and you need to empty it, you should get a little red light coming up there. On the left hand side, we've got another main lights isolator. So if you want to leave all of these switches on but turn that one off there, the majority of your lights should then turn off. But again, if you want to just use all the lights, you just go on, and that should then give you power to all of them. You've then got 2 testers. So you've got test just here. When I press on that button there, it shows us the battery voltage. So if we have a little look on there, between 11 and 12, that's absolutely perfect, that's fine. If our battery started going down towards the 10 and the low, then all it means really is that we either need to start the engine up for a little bit, because that will charge the habitation battery as well, or we need to just plug a hookup cable into the van for a while to get some serious charge going into it. You got to remember that even though it's a leisure battery, it doesn't last forever. You know, if you imagine if you went into your car or whatever and had the radio on without the engine running for a couple of hours, when you start the engine up, it's going to be a little bit sluggish to start, and that's just exactly the same as the leisure battery. They're obviously made slightly differently, but you know, they're not designed to last forever. So you do need to make sure that you keep your eye on that battery level indicator, just so that you know what the sort of level of your battery is. If it starts getting towards the low, plug the cable into it or start the engine up. Easy as that. To the right, the other test switch here is going to be testing your fresh water level. So you can see there it's between full and 3/4. So when we go to use the pump and use the taps, we should have water coming through to the taps. And the last one is just your pump switch. So you have got an inline pump on this vehicle. And what I mean by an inline pump is that it's an actual separate pump that sits outside of the tank and has a pipe going to the tank. So the reason that that's important, and the reason I have to actually mention that, is because this particular pump, and all inline pumps, work on pressure. So you've got two different types of pumps in vans. You've got a submersible pump or an inline pump. The submersibles work on 12-volt power, so they won't turn on until you actually lift the tap. The inline pumps work on pressure, so they won't turn off until they get to their 100% pressure. So the reason I say that is that when you turn the pump on for the first time, you will probably hear the pump running on for a few seconds. And actually, if I just do this as an example, I've just turned the pump off. I'm just going to draw some water through the tap, or at least get some air into the system. So the pump's off right now, just drawing some water through, just so that we've got a little bit of, you know, extra pressure for the pump to make up again when I turn it back on. So if I just do this for a sec. All right. So now when I turn the pump switch on, or back on, it will probably run for a few seconds. There you go. So that's a good example, just to show you what's going on with that pump. So because I drew a little bit of water through that tap just there, when the pump was turned off, that introduced a little bit of air into the system. So when I turn the pump switch on, which is probably what will happen when you turn it on for the first time when you first use it, the pump will just make up that little bit of extra pressure that it needs before it turns itself off. So the good thing about this, the good thing about an inline pump, is that if you have a leak somewhere, anywhere in the vehicle, doesn't matter where it is, if you have a leak that's on the, you know, the water system, the pump itself will turn on, off intermittently. And as you can probably imagine, that's because it's trying to make up that pressure that it's losing from the leak. So that's a real clear indicator. If somebody comes in to me and says, oh, look, I think I've got a leak, the first thing I would do is turn the pump on and just see if the pump's turning itself on and off, and that would then prove to me that there's definitely a leak. So that's how the pump system works on there. That's just how you can use it. As I said, it shows you when it's on and it shows you when it's off. It's also really handy to have that pump on light up there, because if you find that, you know, maybe one day you do have a leak, because these things do happen, you know, it's not the end of the world, but it does happen. If you find that one day you do have a leak and perhaps you don't realize that the pump's on, you will also have the light up there telling you that the pump's on, so that you can't let it go on for too long. So next thing I need to run you through before I show you any of this stuff here is still to do with the pump. Unfortunately, I know it's a little bit of a, you know, I feel like I'm sort of chewing your ear off about it, but it's really, really important that you understand how to fill the boiler up with water and how to make sure that the boiler is definitely full. So it's the most simple thing in the entire world, but all you need to do to make sure that your boiler is definitely full up with water is make sure that there's water coming through the hot side of the tap. So let's just say, for example, just to be really overkill about it, we've come to the control panel here. We've tested that we've got water in the tank. We've tested that the pump works and that it's got pressure. We can then come over to the tap here and then do it. So draw the water through on the hot side of the tap. So basically lift the tap up and allow that pump to just pump through the water. You see there, we've got absolutely no air coming out through that tap whatsoever, so that's absolutely perfect. And then when I turn the tap off, make sure that the pump turns itself off, which it did pretty much straight away. So what that's proven is that the boiler is completely filled up with water. If the boiler wasn't full of water, same goes again. If there was a little bit of air in the system, which there would be if the boiler wasn't full of water, if there was a little bit of air in the system, you would have air coming through the tap and the pump wouldn't turn itself off. So just doing that, just drawing the water through that tap there on the hot side of the system, proves to me as an absolute fact that the boiler is definitely full of water. And once you've done that, I mean, that is literally all you have to do. But once you've done it, you can then go ahead and use the boiler however you want to. All right, so if I just show you how to use the boiler, it is unbelievably simple. But once we've checked that we've got water in the tank by doing what I've done there, you've got these two switches just here. So the boiler that you've got is an Ultra Store. It's a Truma Ultra Store, and you've also got the option of using it on the gas, which is this one on the right, or the mains, which is this one on the left. So at the moment, I haven't got the electric hookup plugged in, so I can't use it on the mains whatsoever. I will show you how to do it, which is literally just by doing that. But so at the moment, I can only use it on the gas. So to turn it on the gas, we literally make sure that you've got the cover off on the outside, like I said earlier, but we literally just turn this switch on. I've just heard it light straight up. And then all you need to do from there is select your temperature. So you've got 30, if you want to just, do some washing up or something. And then you've got all the way through to 70. So it's essentially a thermostat. It will turn the boiler on and off as it needs to when it gets to the desired temperature. Now, all I will say is that because the boilers on these vehicles are only 10 litres, that's what they all are, I would always recommend to get the water a little bit hotter than you might think, because then you'd have to use a little bit less of it when you're using the shower or whatever it might be. So obviously it'll last a bit longer, it'll go further, because you're using more cold water to make up your temperature in the shower. But again, that's the sort of thing that you're going to end up working out, just by using it. It's a bit of a learning curve, but I'm just going to show you the basics of how to use everything. And then you can, work out the rest of it. But there you go. So that's how you actually light the boiler up and how you select your temperature. Back to there, turns it off. Now, as I said, unbelievably easy. When you plug the hookup cable into the van, you can turn that switch on just there, and that'll do the same job. It'll get the water hot. All right, so this one on the left-hand side, the one that says Ultra Heat, that is completely separate to the boiler controls here, which is why it's off to one side. That's all to do with your actual heating system down here. Just have a look in there, yeah, all good. Right, inside the wardrobe, we have got something fairly important I need to just show you. So, just down here to the right, we've got this little switch here, which is going to be your isolator for the mains on the heater. So, the reason that is important to remember is that if you have that switch turned off, and even if you've got the hookup cable plugged in, if you've got that switch in that wardrobe there turned off, this switch just here that says Ultra Heat will not do anything at all. So that little switch inside the wardrobe needs to be turned on before you can use the heating on the mains. It just won't do anything whatsoever. Okay. So that's what that little switch just there in there does. You've then got your main 240 volt isolators, so that's your trip switches just there for the actual main system itself. You've then got your gas isolators, so you can isolate individual appliances from just there. So if I run you through what they are, the top one is your cooker, second one down is the heater, third one is the fridge, and the bottom one is the boiler. So you'll get to grips with what they are. They're just the symbols, really. To turn them off, you have got a little thing up there that tells you how to do it, but you literally just turn them 90 degrees so they are facing upright, and that'll then isolate the gas to any appliances. Now, the reason that you would do that, the only reason you would do that, is if you thought there was a problem with a specific appliance. So let's just say you come into the vehicle one day and you thought, for whatever reason, you thought that the fridge was leaking gas. You can isolate it from there and not worry about it too much. So yeah, it just gives you the ability to isolate individual sections. To be completely honest, that it's more so for our sort of testing purposes. You know, if somebody came in and said, look, I've got a leak somewhere, but I don't know where it's from, we would put our tester on the unit over there and then turn them on one by one and see which one causes the leak. So to be completely honest, I would just leave them as they are unless you think you've got a problem with something specifically. But then at the same time, if you do think you've got a gas leak, give us a ring, you know, because it's quite an important thing to sort out. So get it down to us as soon as you can. But anyway, that's what they're for. You've got the original Orion Owner's Handbook. This is all to do with the original, you know, all the original stuff in this particular vehicle. It does say they're auto sleeper, so they are made by auto sleeper. They're sort of made to be very, very similar to other auto sleeper layouts and brands, but they are actually built by them. But there you go. So the heating itself. So as I mentioned a minute ago, you have got the option of using it on gas or electric. If you did want to use it on electric, it's super easy. All you've got is obviously the switch in the wardrobe, and then you've got the option of 500, 1000 or 2000 watts. So basically what that means, it all just equivalates to a certain amount of amps. So if I'll just briefly tell you, 500 is about 2 amps, 1000 is 4 amps, and 2000 is about 8 amps. So all I would say about that is that if you're if you're going to a campsite and you're plugged into the mains, they will have told you what amp size or what ampage your hookup cable that you're plugged into, or the hookup point that you're plugged into, is capable of. So let's just say, for example, you go to a campsite and it's quite normal for them to give you a 10 amp pole. So if you're plugged into a 10 amp pole and you choose 2000 on that ultra heat up there, you're immediately straight away using 8 out of your 10 amps. You will also have the battery charger will be on straight away. That's around an amp. And as soon as you start, that's going to be 9 amps straight away. That's just 9 amps there. If you want to use the fridge on the mains, that's going to be another amp. If you want to use your mains on your hob there, that's probably another 5 amps. So you just have to bear in mind that you've only got a certain amount of amps to play with. It's not like a house where you can have pretty much anything plugged in at once. It's got a much lower maximum amp rating where you're plugged into. Obviously, normal sort of household sockets like these ones, they've all still got that same sort of 13 amp rating, but you've got a maximum rating that you're plugged into on the outside of the van. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. But there you go. So I would recommend to use the heater there. If you are going to use it on the mains, I would use it on 500 or 1000. Other than that, if you don't want to use it on the mains and you want to use it on the gas, I've got this lit up on gas at the moment, as you can probably see in the little peephole down there. So to do that, to light it up on the gas, all you need to do, I'm just going to switch it off for now so I can show you it. So we can make sure that our system is turned off by just having a look down the hole there and seeing that there's no gas inside there at all. There's no flame. So to light it up on the gas, all we need to do is super easy. We turn this little valve here around to about 2 or 3 and push down. Once you've done that, you can see down there you've got a little pilot flame now just whirring away. All we need to do from there is lift up on this and twist it around all the way, and now the main flame has kicked in. To the left of this, we've got the fan option. So you've got the fan option on this particular vehicle. So to turn the fan on, we push this little switch over to the left hand side and then select our fan speed. So the fan will pump the air around to any of the little circular vents around the vehicle, like that one just down there. There is one in the bathroom as well. Probably is 1 or 2 other ones, but I can't see them right now. So that's how you light the heater up. Now I will say, when you come to turn this heater on for the first time when it's cold, you will find that it will take a few more tries than just what I've done there. The reason it was so easy just then is because it's already been on for this whole video. So when you come to lighting it up, you probably find that when you twist it around, once you've got the pilot flame on, the pilot flame's easy. Once you twist it around, you'll probably find that the main flame will struggle to stay on. So if that is the case, all you need to do is just push back down on the valve again to get that pilot flame back on, and just allow that pilot flame to warm up the chamber a little bit more first. Once it's warmed the chamber up, lift it up again, and it should stay on, no problem at all. So behind us, we've got the fridge. This is a 3-way Dometic fridge. So we've got 3 different options of how to actually use this fridge. You've got gas, 230 volt, and 12 volt. So the gas is the most common way to get the fridge cold. It's the most efficient and quickest way to get it cold. But you do obviously also have the other 2 options. Now the 240 volt will get the fridge cold nice and quickly. When I say nice and quickly, it's still about 3 hours or so. It's quite normal, but it will get the fridge cold just about as fast as the gas will, generally speaking. So if you do have access to the mains on this, so if you've got the mains cable plugged in, I would recommend using it on the mains. But if you don't have a mains cable plugged in, just switch it over to gas and it will light up straight away. The 12 volt function there is only really for holding the temperature inside the fridge as you drive. So this takes a little bit of power from the engine itself and basically just, you know, keeps the fridge cold as you're going. It's not really powerful enough to get the fridge cold by itself, but it will do a good job of keeping the fridge cold as you drive. So it's really important to pre-cool the fridge before you leave and switch over to 12 volt, because when you get, you know, if you've got the fridge that's warm, you know, before you leave and you switch over to 12 volt, drive to wherever you're going and then expect it to be cold when you get there, it won't be properly cold. So you do need to pre-cool it on gas or the mains before you leave. But there's nothing to it. If you want to light it up on the gas, you literally just twist to the right once, it will light up by itself. So yeah, there you go, nice and easy. The cooker, I very rarely run through these because they are just unbelievably straightforward. There's literally nothing for me to show you really, apart from the fact that you've got an ignition switch on here. So just like any household cooker. And as I said briefly earlier, you have got the option of the mains ring at the back there as well. So if you are hooked up on the mains and that you've double checked that you've got enough power to use, you can then use this 1 to 6 on here, and it'll give you, it's about a maximum of about 6 amps from there. So you know, just bear that in mind if you are going to use that. But there you go. Only other thing that I would say is just to make sure that you allow all of this down here to cool down before you put the lid down. It's not the end of the world if it does happen, but I have seen it happen and it's a real mess. These glass lids are obviously designed to get hot, but if you put this lid straight down after switching one of these off, or if the grill's still on or whatever, I promise you this will shatter. So just allow it all to cool down before you pull the lid down. I'm just going to turn this heater off. Like so, turn the fridge off. And then the last thing to show you is going to be the bathroom. There's absolutely nothing to it, to be completely honest. The shower is coming up from just there. You've literally got a hot and cold tap just there for the shower. Same goes for the sink just there. It's just a hot and cold tap. The shower tray itself is in really good condition. There's nothing, I can't see any cracks or splits in that whatsoever, so that is always a good thing. The toilet is normally the only part that I actually run through because it's the only bit that you might not have, you know, might not be able to work out. But it's, again, it's so easy. But you've got a little blue button at the top just here. When I press on that, it pumps around our flush fluid, which, to be honest, should be a bit more of a pinky colour. So when you come to replacing that, make sure that you do use the pink. Push this to the right, and it drains everything into the cassette. Make sure that when you have drained everything into the cassette that you pull this handle back, and that's it. Easy as that. So, habitation check has been done on this vehicle. Everything is absolutely brilliant. I can't fault this whatsoever. You know, sometimes when I go through and do these videos, I will find little bits and pieces, little niggly bits, but absolutely everything seems to be working as we would expect. So if you think I've missed anything out, or if you think there's anything that you want going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.